Hey everybody, Andre here, and today I want to show you how to transpose like a pro. So before we get started, this is not a beginner-friendly video. You really need to have a basic understanding of how to read music properly in order to do the skill that I'm going to show you. So if you have intermediate level and above, this is definitely the video for you. I think what I'm going to show you really makes transposition a breeze. And will take your score reading to the next level. So without further ado, let's transpose like a pro. So what is transposition? Not every instrument is tuned the same way. We have strings and many woodwinds like the flute, the oboe, the bassoon, many brass instruments like trombones, tuba, piano, guitar. All of these instruments are in the key of C. There are, of course, more, but these are, kind of popular instruments in the key of C. But what does that tell you? Well, a C instrument, basically, if you're playing, and the C instrument, like a piano, sees that note and they play that note, it's going to sound like that note. This C will always sound like C. But what about other instruments? Well, a common one is a B flat instrument. If you've ever played in like wind ensemble, band, many instruments are in B flat, like a clarinet. There are B flat trumpets, tenor saxophone. Many instruments are in the key of B flat. But what does that really mean? Well, that means that if a B flat clarinet sees a C, that note actually sounds like B flat. So when you're looking at a score, it's not always going to be all instruments in the key of C. Sometimes instruments are going to be in all sorts of different tunings, and it's your job as whoever's interpreting the score to figure out what all those notes are. So that's what transposition is, looking at something and figuring out what note it actually is. So here we have a score by Haydn, a divertimento in B flat. And we have the oboe, we have the horn, we have the bassoons, and we have the contrabassoons. So you'll notice when you look at the key signatures, there's B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, but what's missing here? What's missing here in the horn in B flat? Now you'll notice this is a German score, and they write in B. This translates to B flat. B natural would be H, so don't be confused by that. But basically, if you see, everyone's supposed to be playing unison B flat. So oboe has B flat, bassoon has B flat down here, B flat. But what does the horn have? The horn has a C. So here is, transposition 101. You're going to want to figure out what note this is, because if you play a C instead of a B flat, this is going to sound very strange, very out of character, because it's not going to sound like a unison note. So this is what I mean by transposition, really figuring out what note to actually be playing. So, well, what do you do then? Well, the most common thing that people do is they use intervals to transpose. So this requires a lot of memorization and knowing, let's say, B flat. So we have a C here, and we have a B flat instrument, and we're going to transpose it so that it's from C to B flat. So what is that interval? It's a whole step, a major second. So every time that you're reading a B flat instrument, if you wanted to play their part on a piano, for example, you would have to read all of the notes one whole step down. And yes, of course you can do that, but there is a simpler way. And B flat isn't a very good example because a whole step down, that's super easy. What if there was another kind of instrument that you had to transpose? So another common orchestral instrument is a clarinet. And an A clarinet, what that basically means is that if they read a C, that sounds like an A. And so that means that all of the notes, if you were going to transpose by interval, you'd have to read everything a minor third down. And that's significantly harder than reading everything a whole step down. So it's unreliable. It's an unreliable method of doing it, but it's so common that people do it this way because it's perceived to be easy. But there is a better way, and I'm now going to show you that. So in a previous video you can check out, I showed all of the different clefs that there are, but basically it's not just treble, it's not just bass clef. There are things called C-clefs. Now, what C-clefs are is basically, you see how my handwriting's bad, but basically there's a K of sorts. Sometimes it's ornate, you know. But in either case, these lines converge on a central point. And that central point is middle C, C4. And there are a number of these clefs. This one that I drew you is alto clef. There's also soprano clef down here, mezzo soprano clef, well, there's alto clef, what we just did, and there's tenor clef. And each of these clefs has middle C right there in the central point. There's also, like we have said, treble clef and bass clef. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one more that's very uncommon, and that's baritone clef. That's down here. Now, there used to be other forms of the G clef, but it's kind of archaic because all of these other ones cover all possible notes. If you know, if you like think about the scale, right, from C to C, there's only 7 unique pitches, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So these basically cover all of those possible notes. But what do you do with this? What's the next step? Well, think about what I said before. So we have, let's say we're in treble clef, and we have C, right? And we're a B flat instrument. This is a B flat instrument. This is a B flat clarinet, and we're at the piano and we're trying to read this line: C, B, A, G. We're trying to read this with the sounding pitches. So if it's a B flat instrument, well, what we just said before, yeah, you read it a whole step down, right? Okay, so whole step down from C, that's B flat. Whole step down from B, that's an A. Whole step down from A, that's a G. Whole step down from G, that's an F. So in reality, you would read this as B flat, A, G, F. But that's using intervals. What if you used one of these clefs and placed it instead of this G clef, instead of the treble clef? What clef can you use so that this note is a B flat? Well, if you look carefully, I'll give you a second. Which one of these 4? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the tenor clef. If you take the tenor clef and put it instead of the G clef, now this middle line is C, the note below C is B. And then what you do is you apply the key signature to whatever is being used, right? So we're originally in the key of C. That means we would apply the B flat key signature. So B flat and E flat. And then you don't have to transpose anything. You just literally read it with the clef. Let's try another example. So here we have an A clarinet excerpt, and we are reading their part. They're reading it in the key of C major on their instrument, and they're playing A, C, B, and G. Well, as we said before, for an A clarinet, you would have to transpose everything down a minor third. So down a minor third from A, well, that's F sharp, okay? Down a minor third from C, that's A. Down a minor third from B, that's G sharp. Down a minor third from G, that's E, okay? So as you're going along, you have to do all that. That's just too slow. It's a lot faster to use a clef. So with what clef, which of these clefs makes this A or this C an A? Which of these clefs can you read this written C as an A? I'll give you a second. Think about that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Soprano clef. So if you remove this treble clef and you place this soprano clef down, now this bottom line is C. Let's count up. C, D, E, F. Okay. C, D, E, F, G, A. C, D, E, F, G. C, D, E. These are the notes in soprano clef. You don't have to use intervals at all. It's just there. Well, then you're thinking, well, what about the accidentals? Well, we were reading that part. That part was written in C major. So you transpose the key as well, right? You apply the key signature. If we were in the key of C, the corresponding key for A is A major. What's A major? 3 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, F sharp, G sharp. So when you're transposing instruments, you can use the following clefs for the following transpositions. So soprano clef, we've already talked about it. You use it for A instruments. You can also use it for A flat instruments, but I can't think of any A flat instruments off the top of my head. Mezzo-soprano clef, you can use for F instruments, or F sharp or F flat instruments, but again, I can't think of any F sharp or F flat instruments, but F is good. So A clarinets, that's really common. F horn, that's really common. F English horn, that's another common one. Alto clef, you use that for D instruments, like D trumpet, D horn, stuff like that. Occasional D clarinet. The tenor clef, we've talked about that. You use it for B flat instruments, like B flat clarinet, B flat trumpet, saxophone, stuff of that nature. The treble clef, I mean, you just use it for C instruments, pretty much. The bass clef, you would use it for E flat instruments, like E flat clarinet, E flat saxophone, alto sax, stuff like that. And kind of the strange one, the baritone clef, you would use it for G instruments. And the only orchestral one that I can think of is the alto flute. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's say we have a C here. Okay, I'm going to draw it way over there. So we're going to do it for every single one of these clefs. So in soprano clef, put that there, that note is an A. In mezzo-soprano clef, that note is an F. In alto clef, that note is a D. In tenor clef, that note is a B. In G clef, that note is a C. In bass clef, that note is an E. And in baritone clef, sorry, I'm going to do it over here, that note is a G. It's amazing, isn't it? So, of course, you do the whole accidental thing that we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. But that is really amazing. You can just use the clefs and not have to worry about doing interval of transposition. So it's just too slow. Interval transposition is too slow. I mean, unless you're amazing at it, right? This is a skill like anything else. But if you can just read it as it is, you don't have to do that kind of mental mathematics. So I want to say a quick word about transposing the key signatures and the accidentals and stuff. So here we're going to have a D trumpet, okay, or a D horn or whatever, some kind of D instrument. And they're looking at their part, and it's in treble clef, and their key signature is G major, and they have the notes G, A, B, and F. So you want to play this at the piano, okay? So how are you going to do this? Well, the first step is, of course, change the clef, all right? So we talked about already that the D major is going to become the alto clef, right? So let's start there. Now, this is the key of G major originally. So we look at the tonic note. That's tonic in this key. What does this note become in alto clef? In alto clef, this note is A. So the new key signature for what we're going to read in C is going to be A major. So in A major, what are you adding to the key signature? You're adding the C sharp and you're adding the G sharp. So over here, our new key signature is going to be F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, because that is the key of A major. And now we can read the notes properly. That's an A, that's a B, that's a C sharp, and then this note here. So this note is G, natural. And this accidental cancels out that sharp. So our part, as played in the key of C, would be A, B, C sharp, G natural, when it originally was written as G, A, B, F natural. So when you play this at the piano, now it makes sense. So I want to break this down for you in a step-by-step process that will hopefully make it easier. So the first step, of course, we already talked about. You're looking at the score, you're looking at a particular instrument, you're going to change the clef. So let's say you're looking at an E-flat clarinet part, you're going to take that E-flat clarinet part and change the clef to bass clef. Okay? Then the next thing is that you're going to change the key signature to the concert key. So if we have E flat, you're going to add 3 flats to whatever key that you were in. Okay, so let's say we are the E flat clarinet part is being read in D major. Okay, what's D major? D major is 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. The E flat clarinet part, the E flat key, has 3 flats. It has B flat, E flat, and A flat. So when you add these 3 flats to this, you basically are subtracting 1. So remove that, remove that, remove that, remove that, and then add that. So you end up reading the part in the key of F. And that gels because if you think about the difference between C and E flat, that's a minor third. So if you're originally reading it in D, then the key becomes F, which is a minor third. So that's kind of interesting. I'll give you the list of the keys. So we have in A major, that's 3 sharps. So you're adding 3 sharps to whatever. A flat major, you add 4 flats. F major, you add 1 flat, or F sharp, you add 6 sharps. D major, you add 2 sharps, or D flat, you add 5 flats. B flat, you add 2 flats. B major, you add 5 sharps. G major, you add 1 sharp. Or G flat major, you add 6 flats. Or E flat major, which we just talked about, you add 3 flats. Or in E major, you add 4 sharps. Now I've only written these because the other transpositions are way rarer, way less common. These are very common. So you change the key signature, whatever is written, you add these sharps or flats to it. And then the last step is you add accidentals, which I showed you before, how the note, the extra accidental that doesn't correspond with the key signature, then it's applied. All right, so we're going to get fancy in MS Paint here. I have a little excerpt from the Brahms Symphony No. 3, and we're going to focus on the clarinet part. Now, if you look at the other 2 instruments, they're C instruments, flute and oboe, and the key of this piece is F major. You know this because we have the B flat in the key signature, and these 2 instruments are C instruments. Now, if you look at the clarinet part, the clarinet is in the key of B flat, and their key is G major. So you take the key of B flat, which is 2 flats, and you add it to that key, right? So G major, 1 sharp, B flat, 2 flats. The E flat of B flat and the F sharp of G cancel out, and what are you left with? The B flat. And you have the correct clef that you're going to use, which is tenor clef. So you're reading this part in tenor clef in the key of F major. That's awesome. So what are these notes? Well, this bottom note, let's zoom in. This bottom note here is F, because here's tenor clef, C, B, A, G, F. That bottom note is F. Now, what about this note? Well, this note is A, right? Does this A flat belong in the key of F major? It does not. So this accidental is applied to that note. So these two notes are F and A flat. Let's move on. Here we have what was originally written as C sharp and E, but in tenor clef, and I'm just going to put another tenor clef here. In tenor clef, you have this right here, and we're reading it in the key of F major. So this top note is a D. This bottom note is a B sharp. Wait a minute. We have an accidental here. But this accidental directly conflicts with the B flat. What do you do? Well, think about what the sharp does. Sharp is raising the note. If the note originally is supposed to be B flat, what happens when you raise it? It becomes B natural. So these two notes are B natural and D. And you can confirm that because, again, if you're not sure, you can just look at the original notes. This is a minor third interval, G to B flat. F to A flat is a minor third interval. C sharp to E, that's a minor third interval. B natural to D, that's a minor third interval. So you can always rely on that original interval stuff to get you through. Keep going here. We've changed the key signature. So now we're reading it in D major, or the clarinet is reading in a D major. So what's the difference between D major and B flat major? Two sharps, two flats. And you read it in the key of C. That's kind of fun. So what is this note? Well, we have an A, and we have a note that originally is not supposed to have a sharp. So we have A and C sharp, major third. You can confirm that. B, D sharp originally, that's also major third. We're doing awesome, right? So the point is, if you use the clefs, you don't have to rely on the intervals. You can use the intervals as a backup, but it's so much faster. Put the clef here. You're reading it in C. F, A, D, F, G sharp, B, D, D and F, C sharp and E. It's so fast. You don't have to do the interval transposition. So, in conclusion, what's the point? What's the purpose of this? Well, if you're a conductor or a composer or, a music academic or anybody who is looking at a score, a whole total big score, and trying to figure out what the heck is going on, you definitely want to be able to transpose stuff. And using clef-based transposition, which is what I talked about today, is simply faster. Transposition is faster than interval-based transposition. It just is. But, of course, there is a but. You have to practice. Right? It's just not going to happen instantly, right? You have to practice. And what's the best way to practice? Well, there's a very famous book, Morris and Ferguson, Preparatory Exercises in Score Reading. The gold standard. The gold standard for getting better at this stuff. And you just play that stuff, you drill it. And in another video, I'm going to guide you through some specific exercises that I like to do in order to, shore up my abilities. But go to this book. I'll put a link in the description box below where you can find it. I prefer a paper copy, but of course there you can find it online. I'm sure. But I like to order the book. It's relatively inexpensive, but it's one of those like super important musicality books that you really want to have in your arsenal or in your library. So there you go. If you're a composer, if you're a conductor, you want to be able to transpose easily and freely without thinking too much about it. And clef-based transposition is the way to go. And to practice, you want to use the Morris and Ferguson Preparatory Exercises book, which I will showcase in another video. But for now, I hope this was useful for you. If this was very challenging, very difficult, don't worry. It's one of those things that gets easier with time, and you really have to work towards it. I can tell you that when I first started doing it, I felt like, wow, this is really hard. But now I feel like score reading is one of my musical superpowers. I feel like I can look at a piece of music and I can just unpack everything that's going on, and I don't have to guess. I don't have to worry about, oh my god, this clarinet part, I have no idea what these notes are. Oh my god, this English horn, my brain hurts. I mean, your brain will still hurt, of course, but it'll get better. It'll get easier and easier as you do it. So if you like this video, please consider hitting that like button. If you want more from this channel, please consider subscribing. Most of the views that I'm getting on this channel are from people that are not subscribed. It's like 95% not subscribed. So it'll really help tremendously if you could subscribe to the channel and see more. But until next time, hopefully we'll have a video up about some specific things that you can do to get better at reading. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. Take care.